My name is Sarah Hotchkiss. I've seen a chunk of you here before, maybe some not. I own Catalyst Wellness Coaching downtown. So I do functional nutrition. The four big areas that usually people come to me with, I could do other things, but the four big things are usually metabolic things. So we think of that as weight loss, but as we're going to talk about today, it's really more than how much you weigh. Metabolic stuff, GI conditions, anything in the IBS realm, anything in the autoimmune realm, even if you don't have a diagnosed autoimmune condition, although I'll work with that if you do, but if you're like, think you do, or something's off, or you're having sort of unexplained pain and, lots of things going on, autoimmune. Um, and then usually hormones is the other thing. Work with a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal women, and try to do some education around just kind of the newest research around hormones and biochemical hormones and what they can do for you and how it's never too late to start if you want. So those are kind of the four big things. I do some pediatric work. I can do stool testing, labs, lots of different things. Um, Depends on what you're going for. I don't shove all that on everybody. So um, at the end, if anybody, I'm all booked for January and about half booked for February already. Because always the first of the year is that's when everybody wants to change their life. So that's when I'm the busiest is the first quarter of the year. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas is like crickets, so nobody talks to me as much. I'm home making pie. So, um, but today we'll talk about metabolism, and I'm going to try to speak for around like 40-ish minutes and then ask questions as we go and whatever. And then about the last 20 minutes, I'll give you a couple just like resources, suggestions. I have a food app that I have handouts for that you can use, and a couple people in here are already using it. So you can give feedback. I have my cards, or if you want to sign up to work with me, that's all in there too. What I usually do if people are interested in working with me is I usually just do a free like phone call for half hour, 45 minutes where you can chat on the phone. I can get a sense for what you need. And then if you want to work with me, because I don't charge by the session and I don't just see people usually one time. It's usually kind of like a package length, unless it's just a really small, like one-off thing, but it never is. So um, usually a lot of times people will come with one thing and they'll say, well, I want to lose some weight. And I'll just, is that it? That's it? Yep, that's it. Then as I really like dig down or even talking with you on the phone, you're like, well, how do you sleep? Oh, not good. Are you tired? Yeah. Do you have headaches? Uh-huh. I have this funny rash and I have and then it's like this whole thing. And then that's why, a lot of these things people have had for a lot of times years and years of their life. So we can at least take a handful of months to unravel that as opposed to, a 1 or 2 hour session. So metabolism. I'm going to keep this really like simple today because I know your brains in the beginning of the year, especially if you've been on social media, are overwhelmed by like what to do and what not to do and all the things. And so we're going to go 5 and 5 today. 5 ways to measure your metabolic health, and then 5 things to do to improve it if maybe those first 5 things weren't so good. So you can kind of score yourself. Now, some of these are a couple lab numbers that you are probably not carrying with you today. Maybe some of you can like look up your Mercy chart or your Dean chart on your phone and look and see. But that'll give you kind of a good, handle on things. So 5 ways to measure metabolism, and then I have handouts, so you don't have to write all this down. I'll give it to you in the next like 5 minutes, but I'm going to do a little quiz first. What are some ways that you think you would measure whether or not you are in good metabolic health? Stool. Okay. We'll see if anybody hits like any of the 5 that I have.
Did you get hungry?
Okay.
Your insulin level.
Your what?
Insulin level and your
Okay, so that's one. Very good.
your weight.
I mean, you have a little bit of like because we jacked about it. That's okay. Weight. Okay. That is not one of them. So I measure stool for sure with other things, but I wouldn't say it's in the top 5 of like metabolic stuff. If I just, because I could give you 30 things today, but who's going to remember all that? So in the top 5, weight is actually not one of them. And that's one of the big misnomers. We're going to talk about that. Neither is BMI, body mass index, your height and weight. So that's what I'm kind of here to dispel a little bit today because I'll talk about that a little bit. Did you say? What? Like what though? How would I measure that? How would I know? What would be like a marker?
Swollen ankle.
What would be like a number? How would I know if my body's inflamed? Lab. So SED rate or CRP. Yep. So that would be a marker of inflammation, but I would say not necessarily metabolic health. Can be. I use that for autoimmune stuff though. Your CRP or your SED rate might be high though if you have diabetes, which obviously is metabolic or all related. But
Glucose.
now nobody wants to talk because you said weight, and people are like, well, not that. Like, what else would it be? Okay, what about glucose? Fasting glucose or like after you eat? Mhm. Yeah, so I'll talk about that a little bit today. That's sort of one I'm going to say. Like, that's not a bad one, but there's two other tests I like better, which are the two that you said. So fasting glucose is, it can vary quite a bit, like depending on how you prepped and all over the place and what you ate the night before. So it's not my favorite.
A1C.
A1C is one of them. Yep. It's actually even, that's still not my favorite, but that one's decent. And that's one that doctors will run pretty regularly. Any other ones you think? How you would measure your metabolic health?
Oh, I said thyroid function.
Mm, thyroid and metabolism are connected, but I wouldn't say it's in my top five. If I were only to look at five things, I would say it's in my top five. It's funny too, because specifically when women come to me and they put on some weight, especially postmenopause, they'll be like, "Well, my thyroid must be fine." Like everybody thinks their thyroid's off, but I would say it's not rare, but I would say when I run thyroid numbers,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 15% of the time with who's coming to me, their thyroid stuff is actually off. So any other like how would you know your metabolism's off? Would be a good marker. We're missing a couple big ones here. We got one out of five.
Energy or sweating issues.
Yeah, that wouldn't be one of my like numerical measures, but like now that can be metabolism, that could be thyroid hormone, that could be a lot of things. In fact, one of the things I always tell people is, what do you think is the number one complaint that everyone I see across all those things comes into me with? That's what it is. It's fatigue, 100%. I keep data on like intake data of like what people's complaints are when they come to me. And so over hundreds of people, many of years, 100% of people said fatigue. Isn't that crazy? Because of course that fatigue is, I mean, that could be anything, right? Which is why people are like, I don't know what to do. I'm just tired all the time. Like, what could it be? And so it's like finding the root cause of that is crazy. That's why good labs are really important. Okay, so the first one in no particular order, but the top five here.
I see.
Can you? Yeah. They're double-sided, so it's just one page piece. Um, number one, blood pressure is number one. So normal blood pressure without blood pressure medication, because that's your real blood pressure. We don't know that's like when I ask people, this is my favorite. How do you sleep? Oh, I sleep great. Okay, well, that's good. Because they come in their fatigue. I sleep great. I take my trazodone and I'm out. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that would knock me out too. So, like, what is your body like naturally doing without meds? Oh, yeah, there's a last one. Um, so again, we're talking about without medication. Now, if you're on medication and you want to look at these numbers to see what you're really doing, really the only way to do that is to go off, and we'll talk about each of these for a lot of times up to 3 months before you see. So I do that with hormones with women too, who are on birth control. I'll say, well, I can measure hormones, but just can tell me what your IUD is doing or what your birth control pill is doing. Not that we can't still do hormone support, but so blood pressure, which is that 120/80 number, give or take a little bit, without blood pressure meds. So we want to know your markers naturally without blood pressure meds, acid blockers, statins, any of that. All right, so start keeping track, or there's gonna be 5 things today. Start keeping track if you pass all 5 of these. If you are on blood pressure meds, I would say you fail that category then, because obviously you must be on blood pressure meds because blood pressure is high. So I like to get people off of, those are the top 3 meds that usually I work people off of, are blood pressure meds, statins, and acid blockers. Because those are the ones we generally don't need to be if we're metabolically healthy and have healthy guts. So, and then long term, a lot of times those meds are more side effects than they're worth. So, blood pressure. Any questions about that? All right. Yep. Yep. Mhm. You heard on the internet? Yeah.
That for one time in flush at your age, that's normal. But
I wouldn't say it's normal, but that might be like upper end. I mean, I wouldn't. All right, so let's take you for example. I mean, 110 plus half your age, so that'd be 130 something for you, basically. I wouldn't say, no, I don't like that for normal. I like for the upper end of like concern, though. I mean, I don't get concerned if somebody comes in with 130 over, but I don't know. I don't like too much 130 over 90, honestly. It's like, really. Or it doesn't make me freak out. It just makes me go, okay, let's look at the rest of these things. Or like, no. Now, caveat here though, if you have panic attack disorder or history of anxiety or current anxiety, that can drive your blood pressure up. That has nothing to do with metabolic stuff, for real. Like if you wake up and you're like, whoa, like that's how you wake up. Your blood pressure might be high, and that's the reason, and has nothing to do with anything else. So you can keep an eye on that too. Also, remember, for most of us, myself included, when you go to the doctor and they take your blood pressure, there's that sort of white coat syndrome. Do you know what I've talked about?
I have that.
Yeah, where you go in and you're like, I do not have high. So I usually have people, I brought my cuff today. I usually have people take their blood pressure at home 30 minutes after they wake up for a week straight to see really what your blood pressure is. So, and if you're on meds, we're trying to work off, I usually have you take it before you take your meds just to see what it is. And not right when you wake up because you're like, but like, maybe 30 minutes or so after you're doing that. Not after vigorous activity, not after. I am in the group that has the opposite problem where my blood pressure, I have POTS, but I have really low blood pressure. And so I would love to be, I think I'd feel amazing like 110 over 80. I'm kind of like just dizzy all the time walking around. Mine's like 85 or 55 when I wake up. So I have to like do things to get mine up, which is why I personally own a cuff because I need to check whether or not I should be driving around. So, um, okay, so blood pressure. The next two are in the lipid category. So most of you, if you've been to the doctor on a semi-regular basis, you've probably had a lipid panel. I did a whole session on this, I think maybe a year or so ago. We talked about labs, so I spent a chunk of time on lipids. So I won't go into all the mega details of that, but I will tell you that within reason, your total cholesterol does not matter to me and your LDL does not totally matter to me. The biggest things that we look for as far as metabolic inflammation are an HDL of at least 50. We used to call that like your good cholesterol, but it is good. In fact, cholesterol is good. And so when people come into me with cholesterol less than 150, I'm usually looking at what's going on because I'm not happy with that. If you have cholesterol less than 150, chances are you don't have enough good cholesterol then to feed your sex hormones, brain activity, neurons, things like that. Or if I see a total cholesterol under 150, I ask if you're on a statin because statin will lower all of your cholesterol, lowers your total cholesterol, your good cholesterol, like all of it. We can't control kind of what it's doing. But an HDL of at least 50. So the blood pressure question, how many people know that they have normal blood pressure without medication? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. How many people know sitting here because either you looked on your phone or you just happen to know that your HDL is over 50 without statins or medication? So already we are down to really only 4 people that have hit 2 out of the 5. We'll see if anybody wins today. I should write a prize.
Yeah.
Epic. Yeah, right. Edamame. Yeah. Okay, so HDL cholesterol at least 50 without the use statins. Triglycerides, that is the number one thing I look at under a lipid panel. That's inflammatory. That's the most inflammatory. HDL is like your protective cholesterol. Triglycerides are usually a result of a super high carb diet or I'm going to say processed food diet. Under 150 for sure. Under 150, under 100 is even better. You got one. Yeah. Yeah. So like this is funny, but my total cholesterol is about 240, 250. So like in the traditional world, they'd be like, we should put Sarah on a statin. Like, okay, I don't need a statin. My LDL is 140s, 150s, which people are like, oh, because that's supposed to be over 100, which by the way, years ago, the cutoff was 150 or 160. So we've lowered that after statins. But when I paid to do an NMR test, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it digs down into your quality of your LDLs and some of your cholesterol, and mine was perfect. It was great. But again, if we don't dig into that or you don't look at the rest of the metabolic factors, there'd be no reason for me to go on a statin. My triglycerides and HDLs are 75 apiece, like 1-to-1 ratio, that's ideal. Like that's what we're looking for. Um, so triglycerides are the most important number in the panel. These, when I work with people, are usually fairly easy to get down. The HDL takes a little bit longer. The HDL you can bring up by doing an omega-3 fish oil supplement or eating a lot of salmon and fatty fish, and exercise. So that's the best way to kind of bring your HDL up. But don't be upset if your HDL was 36 and then 6 months later it's 40. Like it really does take a bit. Triglycerides we could bring down in a few months usually, especially if they're really high to start. Two numbers you can run if your total cholesterol or your LDL is high and you're concerned, and if you have these other metabolic factors. One is called an NMR test. You can ask your doctor for it if you want. It's usually covered by insurance if your LDL is a certain number, if your total cholesterol is a certain number. That will dig down and talk and find out the quality of your cholesterol, of your low density lipoprotein molecules. So the total matters less than how oxidated they are, how I say like how broken they are. Like if you can picture a bunch of like cholesterol LDL molecules in there, like half broken, like that's what you don't want, right? You want like solid, healthy ones, which matters less if you have lots of those. So I don't know if you've ever heard the difference between large and fluffy versus small and dense LDL. We want large, fluffy clouds in your body, not small and dense. And so that NMR test will tell you what kind of LDL you have, and that's what matters. You also can do a coronary artery calcium test. I like that too. That's called a CAC scan. And that will tell you basically how blocked up some of your arteries are and some of those other numbers. So those are the two tests I have people run if, maybe they have other metabolic stuff and, maybe some of their other numbers look okay, but that LDL number is maybe over 150 or something like that. Like I said, I did it on myself. And so the quality of your LDLs is more important than how many you have. Like I said, I just gave you an example with myself. Mine was high, but the quality of mine were great. So we want your HDL to triglyceride ratio ideally to be 1-to-1. That'd be like perfect, up to 1-to-3. So that could be 50 HDL and 150 triglycerides up to, as an example. Easy math. What's happening? Oh,
Not. You have all the stuff you turn 30, you turn 40,
right. And all this stuff kicks in.
40.
Yeah. It's like colonoscopy. Oh,
Yeah.
50. Yeah.
Why does it not perform?
What do you mean?
Does not go.
Oh,
If you're 40, you have to have an
oh, because it's insurance, because it's expensive.
Why is
Yeah.
that?
It's mostly all insurance. That's why people don't randomly get vitamin D tests either. Do you know how much a vitamin D test is at Mercy if it's not covered by your insurance? Depends on your insurance, but I just had somebody go and she was mad because I said, look, I can do a vitamin D test for you for $20. And she said, no, my insurance will cover it. $850. I mean, like it goes toward your deductible, but that's insane.
Yeah.
And that's not a provider issue. That's not, but and sometimes it's hard to check for that. Like, and who wants to go to the doctor and just then have to call like Mercy Care or Dean Care and be like, is this test covered? Like people don't think to do that, especially with vitamin D. But and some of my like Medicare clients, same thing. Careful, some of that stuff's not covered. My mom, I just had her recheck her vitamin D. My mom's she'll be 80. And it wasn't covered for them either. So I just had them do like a cash test. You can go to the doctor's office in town. You can go to the Deerfield lab up in Deerfield, which is like 25 minutes from here, and get it. It's $20. It's seriously, it's $20. So some of this stuff, don't wait for somebody to tell you that you need to check. You can check it yourself. So, if you want to know and have somebody look at it. All right. How many people then have triglycerides under 150 without statins meds? Okay. Now let's back up a second. How many people have the first, the second, and the third? So normal blood pressure, HDL of at least 50, and triglycerides under 150. 3 people. Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know. Yeah, you might not know. Okay. Okay. Number 4, this is where the blood sugar thing came up. Fasting insulin is my favorite measure of really like your insulin resistance. And normally it's not done. You have to ask for it. Usually not a big deal. Insurance coverage wise, people just don't think to ask for it. especially if your A1C is over 5.6, which is a secondary measure, which is okay. They will do fasting insulin. Technically, fasting insulin, the range says 2 to 25 is normal. I think that's ridiculous. It really should be under 10. Well under 10 ideally, but like 10 is going to be the marker where I'm like, oh, we definitely have some insulin resistance going there. I did mine recently for kicks too, not because I thought it was an issue, but I had some hormone stuff going on with menopause, a cyst that's growing funny, and I just wanted to see if something was maybe feeding it or what was going on. And mine was fine, but it's good to like if you've never checked your fasting insulin, that would be so fast 12 hours, water only. Check and see what that is. You can ask for it. And if not, that's like $20 also, A1C is a good measure also. And so that often they will run for you. I really like that better than a fasting glucose by far. That, remember, is a cumulative 6-month measure of your blood sugar. And so I always tell people that when they come into work with me, let's say your A1C is 8, which would be diabetic. I'll say, hey, it'll take us a bit to get you down to even in the 6s, which would be pre-diabetic. That's would be like between 5.7 and 6.4, because it's a 6-month cumulative measure, meaning you need to make lifestyle and food changes for the better part of 6 months before we want to run that lab again. Now, could you run it again in 3 months? Absolutely. And I have, because we will show progress. But just remember, that's 3 months of however you were eating before plus 3 months of what we did. So it's a 6 months cumulative measure. So it's good to check it every 6 months. But if your A1C is like, full diabetic, they want to put you on meds, big stuff going on, and you make significant lifestyle and food changes, you absolutely could check it in 3 months, because then you can show your doctor you're making progress and they'll say, okay, well, we could hold off on meds, which by the way, you can always say no to. You don't have to go on, but you can hold off on that because you've shown progress. Maybe you got it from 8 to 6.4 or something, which would be great progress in 3 months. A1C does not need to be fasting. So the fasting insulin, fasting, A1C doesn't need to be. Insulin in general, your fasting insulin number has major ramifications for heart disease, cancer, just all the health things. And so actually out of all 5 of these things, if I were to pick something, fasting insulin would probably be the number one thing that I would get just to see where you're at. Now, we put the full picture together by looking at some of these other things, but if you were to choose, if you were to grab that, if you can.
You know if most insurance covers fasting?
I don't know. Haven't had issues like having people get it when I ask though, but usually it might not if you had normal blood sugar and an A1C, because they'd be like, why do you need this? Well, I'm just curious. Insurance doesn't care if you're curious. You know what I mean? But then that's when I would be like, go spend $20. And if you are, not concerned, but if you just want to know what it is, like I did mine and mine was 2. And I knew it would be fine, but it was also like, since I had some other health stuff going on, it was like really like validating. I laughed at it. I was like, okay, well, can't get any lower than that. Like, that's great. So that's not my issue. I'm going to put that on a shelf and then go look at some of these other things. A lot of times haven't had an issue if you have other metabolic or blood sugar issues. Like if your A1C is elevated or they'll look at BMI, like if your BMI is higher, you can request and ask. And a lot of times they'll tell you. I know it's hot.
Yeah, otherwise you could put like $20 of them.
$20 at the naturopathic clinic in Deerfield. Doctor's office, I don't remember how much we have it for. I think it's a little more than that, but not much. Yeah.
40.
Yeah. So you can always check if you want. So your a high insulin number is connected with hyperglycemia, high blood pressure. Hyperglycemia inhibits nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator which helps your blood vessels widen to accommodate blood flow and reduce stress. So high blood pressure, which is one of those other ones, is really connected with the hyperinsulinemia. So high blood sugar, high blood pressure almost always go hand in hand. Not always, like I said, when I talked about anxiety and some of those other pieces, but looking at those is really important. All right. How many people? So I bet you most people can't answer if they meet all those 4, because I bet you how many people in the room have ever had a fasting insulin done?
Mine's like 2.
You have? What was yours? Do you remember?
I can look at my email.
I low. Yeah.
Mine was 2.9.
Yeah, really good then. Yeah. You have?
I've had the A1C. I think I've had a fasting insulin, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it'd be a number somewhere between like probably 2 and 25, like somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think I got one of them.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, 2.9 is great too. So that doesn't mean you don't have other stuff going on. There might be other metabolic stuff, but at the core, that means you don't really have any insulin resistance issues. So I like to get a fancy insulin too because I do custom diets and meal plans for people. And then we're going to go a little more low carb if your fasting insulin is 9 or 10 or 11 or 12. Doesn't mean I might not go low carbish for another reason if you want to drop some weight or like something else. But if I know that you have insulin resistance, then we're going to cut that back. Whereas some people may tolerate a higher carbohydrate diet. You might even thrive on that. I'm not talking donuts, but I'm talking like higher whole food carbs, like aren't an issue for lots of people, and you might do well on that. Yeah. When I tried to go pretty low carb myself, I tried keto for a few days. I almost died, but then I tried like lower. That didn't sit well with me. But lower fat didn't sit well with me either. So like that, you just got to figure out kind of your balance. So okay, so the three of you that know you're fasting insulin, you probably do you meet the criteria for the other ones? Did you say you did? Yeah. Okay.
That was 2.8.
2.8, so that's super low too. Yeah. I mean, it's like that's like both of yours are like crazy low. That's good. I just like single digits. So,
From 6 is fine.
and then the last one is not your BMI and not your weight, but your waist measurement. 35 or less for women, 40 or less for men. Men, that is not your pant size. That's your waist measurement. So you might wear a 34 in jeans, but your waist could easily be a 38 or 40. Women too. I don't know about women here, but like my jean size is not the same as my waist measurement. It's less. And then why don't we just go waist sizes for women too? I don't know why we don't do that, but um, what? Just by inches for everyone. So if you are female, now everybody's structured differently. It's somebody in my office yesterday. I'm like, let's measure your waist. She goes, yeah, I don't have that anymore. And she was right. Her waist and her hips were the same number. But we're not all walking around with hourglass figures. I don't have that either. Like you want it to be essentially generally where the smallest part of you is, but that might not be the smallest part, or it can be around your belly button. But you want it's higher than you think. So it's not here. That's like hip. Now it depends on where you carry your weight, but it's going to be more here. Now, but some of us are structured differently, and you may be very thin or a small weight, but not have a defined waist, and that's okay too. Just take it, where it's at and ballpark it. And chances are, if you have issues, an inch or two here won't matter because it'll be too high anyways, and you'll be like, yeah, I need to. Because when we do a hip measurement for women, it's here. Whether or not you have big hips, small hips, doesn't matter. Men, I want you to take it at the largest part of your belly, and you can't suck it in. Because usually when I measure men in particular in my office, women don't do this as much. I'm like, all right, let's get a waist measurement. And they're like, you can't go. Just like when you go weigh yourself at the doctor's office, you're like, let me take off my shoes and my bra and my whatever. We can't have extra weight in here. I brought this tape measure, and you can do it over maybe not like 50 million lasers since it's 9 degrees, but over a t-shirt. If you do not know your waist measurement and you want to get it today, I can do it for you. You can have somebody do it here. Or you can do it yourself. If you don't know it, you should walk out of here knowing what your waist measurement is. You really should. So let me tell you why that matters, and the BMI and the weight don't matter as much. And I've seen this more with women than men. The body type sometimes I see with men over the age of 50 something that come in with metabolic issues are small everywhere except for the gut. That's why we don't want to use weight. You could be 5'11", 6 foot tall, 185, which is like lean or like well within the body measurement. But if you are carrying all of your fat here, belly fat, that visceral fat, and you are, that's a metabolic issue. So that's why we don't want to use weight, or we don't want to use BMI. BMI would have been, I'm 5'11", 185, so I'm good. No, I could look at you right now and tell you you're not good because it's all here. Skinny legs, and just like everything's here. That's what we call like that traditional kind of like beer gut. Now, as we get older and hormones take a dive, like it's more likely to go here. And I'm not talking about sort of, normal postmenopausal belly fat and you've had babies. And I'm not talking about skin either, by the way. Sometimes when I work with people and they lose a lot of weight, 80 pounds plus, that waist measurement can be hard to get because the skin might take up some room. So then we have to kind of take that into account. But a lot of times people lose belly fat, but you can't, the skin doesn't go away, as you know. And so that we have to take that into account too. But I've seen many women in my office who technically their BMI or their weight is too high, zero metabolic issues. Why? Because they carry their weight here. Whether or not they want to or not, metabolically, that's a non-issue. If you have thicker thighs, butt, hips, but you have a waist or you're like big chested, that's not a metabolic issue. So your shape matters actually more than your weight or your total size, just as if you're smaller though too. So who in here knows what their true waist measurement is? Anybody? Probably. See? Oh, yeah. People are like, ballpark, like, what? Yeah, I did you a month ago. It was down. Yeah. So if anybody wants to get their waist measurement, like, you can do it anytime today. Those are the five. Those are five things. I'm not saying there's not other things, but those are like the top five things. And when people come in with weight loss or metabolic issues, I literally go through those five things with them and I say, these are the five things we're going to track every time I see you. Look at labs, look at some of those things. So waist measurement, you don't need to, and if you're working on dropping weight and getting more metabolically healthy, you don't need to do a waist measurement every week. It's not going to change that fast, sorry. But like once a month is decent. The other reason I look at the waist measurement is because, especially if people are working out, people may not lose as much weight as they want. I need to lose 50 pounds. Maybe you don't. You might only need to lose 30 or 35 because if you can lose it from here, like the right place, you might be totally happy, like looking in the mirror. When people come in and say they want to lose weight, it usually means they want to use body fat. And people aren't like, well, I need to get all of this weight off my arms. Like, no one says that. It's always like that, that midsection there. So, and remember, as your hormones change, after the age of 50 in particular, men and women, your weight redistributes a little bit. And some of that we can't correct age related, but you still can have, metabolic issues. Bioidentical hormone replacement can help with some of that. You can't like do HRT and then go to Burger King, but like, it's just like a piece in there that can help with some of that extra kind of belly fat. Yeah, you can't cheat. Yeah, can't cheat the system. Okay, so I'm gonna open this amber because I'm never hot, but like okay, so five things to do to mitigate. If you didn't score a 5 out of 5 on that, 4 to 5's decent, by the way. Um, five things to do. Number one, eat whole foods. I'll talk about what that is. Singular ingredient foods most of the time, at least 80 to 90% of the time, and eat less calories than you burn a day. You may not know what those numbers are. I'll talk about the app a little bit later where you maybe can track that if you want to. People do macro tracking, MyFitnessPal. But like, let's scratch all that and like not get real particular. Singular ingredient foods, all your fruits, all your vegetables, white potatoes, sweet potatoes, all of your animal proteins, pork, beef, chicken, fish, turkey, shrimp, all of those things. If you just said, I'm going to eat singular ingredient proteins like that and fruits and vegetables, including the starchy ones, just if you just said, I'm just going to eat those, I mean, that's essentially what Whole30 is, including eggs, by the way. If I'm just going to eat those things, with maybe some olive oil or whatever for 30 days, you would see a significant change in your metabolic stuff. You would just do that. What I'm saying long term is if you can just do that 80 to 90% of the time, depending on who you are, you'll be fine. So if you do that 80% of the time and your other things that you eat are edamame and maybe it's a piece of sourdough bread, maybe it's like dried cranberries, maybe depending on who you are, everybody's body's different. But if 80% of your plate is those primary proteins, so single ingredient, like mostly animal proteins, I guess, and then fruits and vegetables, including the starchy ones. Like people are like, I can't eat potatoes. Yeah, if you're not having Pop-Tarts, I'd say have a potato, and bars and diet Oreos or whatever shakes and crap that we're eating. But if you can do that, then your other 10 to 20% is less of a big deal. Then maybe that's your, I don't know. Then I call those moderately healthy on the other 10 to 20%. That's your plantain chips, your potato chips, your popcorn, your whatever, dried fruit. And I don't really have an issue with nuts and seeds either. If you are trying to drop weight, I would say they're super calorically dense though. So usually I just say, hey, if you're trying to drop some weight, get metabolically healthy for a period of time, let's just say those animal proteins, fruits and vegetables. And then you can add in the nuts and seeds like slowly kind of later. I don't have an issue with them, but when I say nuts and seeds, I don't mean a whole bag of trail mix. What's in trail mix? M&Ms,
Yeah.
yogurt covered things.
It's literally like a quarter cup. Shoot.
And a serving is a quarter cup. Who eats that? No one. No one. Yeah, like you're measuring it out. Yeah, because you're fasting insulins too. So you're doing a good job. It's so easy to overeat. That stuff tastes like candy bar. You know what I mean? You can. And so, is there room for that in your diet? Yeah, but like that really should be like your 20%. People are like, well, I eat that. I'm not eating a candy bar. Almost might as well, really. Yeah.
Where does dairy fit into this? Is that
Yeah, that's always a question from people. Depends on your individual tolerance. So I tend to work with people with inflammatory conditions. So most of my meal plans are dairy free. So autoimmune across the board, I dairy free, GI for sure, cow's milk dairy free in particular. Um, Metabolic stuff varies a little bit. That's sort of a 50-50, maybe hormone stuff too. I generally not doing a ton. I wouldn't say I'm not doing none, but it depends on who you are. Um, um, Dairy and like glutinous products can be kind of inflammatory for like weight loss and any other like some conditions that you have. So I usually say cut it for a few months and see what happens. And then when you go back to it, maybe try like the Siggy's yogurt here at Basics or a plain Greek, not like the Dan and Oreo yogurt. And I say cheese is yummy, but cheese is really calorically dense too. It's a good fat, but it's so hard to just like I'm just have a little piece of cheese. It's just hard. It's easy to overeat like cheese and nuts and things like that. So, but I think that if your tummy tolerates it and you don't have an autoimmune condition or your skin doesn't break out or you don't have reactions from that, I think that dairy is one of those things that I think a sprinkling of is fine.
So I know the big thing is sugar free yogurt, that kind of thing. So
Right. And I think that's, again, depending on who you are, that could be fine. I wouldn't do that instead of having steak or, something like that. Um, the Siggy's yogurt is probably my favorite. Like, I feel like I should be a brand ambassador for them, but like, it's here. The plain non-fat has 25 grams of protein in a cup. That's well above Greek. It's thick. You could frost a cake with it, but it's yummy. I mean, am I going to eat that plain? Probably not. But you could do fruit and other. I put edamame on there, usually not the wasabi here, but like the sea salt edamame and then fruit or maybe even a little bit of honey. I mean, depending on your blood sugar stuff, but like I feel like there's a lot to do with that, or you could throw it in a shake. But that's and there's literally like it's a 2 ingredient yogurt and there's nothing else in there. It's an Icelandic skyr yogurt. Yeah.
I do cocoa juice, so coconut yogurt.
Yep.
I got
Yeah. And that one's good, although if you're looking for protein, I don't think there's much in there. So the two brands of non-dairy yogurt that have protein in them that I like are the Siggy's plant-based, which is here. That has about 10 grams in a little cup. I love the vanilla cinnamon one. That's my favorite. Because I can mix it with anything. What I do with that one, I think it's 6-ounce cups. Although you can buy the big one, the vanilla cinnamon or vanilla, is I take 3/4 of a cup of that and I mix it with the Ancient Nutrition bone broth caramel or chocolate protein powder or vanilla. I mix that together and then I put edamame and fruit on top. The plant-based Siggy's is really low sugar, like carb too. It's like 10 or 12 carbohydrates in a thing yogurt. So like if I was going for a non-dairy yogurt, that probably would be my number one choice. And the taste is good. Like some of them taste like crap, but that one's good. And I feel like I'm getting not just eating yogurt because I like yogurt, but I'm getting like the texture I want, the flavor I want, and then I'm getting the protein too. It's not like empty calories. Um, The other brand I like is Silk Reek Coconut. And it's not here, but I think Hy-Vee has it. I can't remember festival. It's in kind of a royal or navy blue. They have vanilla, lemon, strawberry, and blueberry. So same thing. Can add a little. Add like a half a scoop of the ancient nutrition or like a similar protein. Not all the protein powders mixed with that. So like if some of the plant-based ones and the pea protein were kind of like grainy and crunchy, so you might not want to throw that in your yogurt. But the ancient nutrition one just blends like seamlessly. Some people like collagen in their yogurt. You could do that too. Doesn't taste like much, you know. Ancient nutrition, no, Vital Proteins makes a lemon collagen actually, and you can add that to lemon yogurt, and that's really good with poppy seeds and then like a fruit thing. So like, you know, mix it up. So like that's a good one. And then you're getting like 40 plus grams of protein in that. And it's a little yogurt bowl. And you don't have to eat a rotisserie chicken for breakfast because nobody wants to do that. But I'm like, eat your protein. Yeah, who doesn't want to like do that? So basically it's just eat real food. You know, we focus on protein a lot, which is why Amber put some of the favorite things up here. So we've got like bone broth that's 10 grams in like a small little cup. And these are just like these dissolvable packets that you add with like hot water. You can sip on that. Um, if you want to make a quick grab and go like soup, packet of one of these, maybe a half cup of frozen peas and carrots and some diced chicken. Boom. Or even a can of chicken. If you're like had to make a soup in 2 minutes, get a can of chicken, some frozen peas and carrots and this, and that would be like 24, maybe 35. Yeah, that's good. The edamame is good. When I work with people and we talk about edamame, most people don't know what it is. I think I eat it almost every day. Look it in my lunch bag. Look it. I have ranch edamame. I'm traveling with it because it like is non-perishable and I love it in the car and crunchy. And there's buffalo, sriracha, wasabi. This is these are the two brands I like. Basically, the Sea Point Farms is like the one you'll see over this one. I mostly get on Amazon, but that one's good too. The only bean. Do you know what this is called?
Too many grams of protein.
Hertz tuna.
Yeah.
This you can put in your purse on a plane, and until you open it, it won't like smell like tuna everywhere. It's purse tuna. It's non-perishable. Get yourself some purse tuna
Yeah. It will help you
with some purse edamame.
and it's trying to make it poor decision.
It'll help you for making poor decisions. So get yourself some like Crunchmaster crackers and some purse tuna and some raw carrots, and you got lunch, you know? So they have even like Wild Planet's like probably my favorite, but even like the run of the mill like Starkist has like flavored ones and they're not mayo or they're not, you know, you can get them at Target. Purse tuna. Hmm. That's what we should have like raffled off today with some purse tuna. Um, Epic is my favorite brand, but like any kind of turkey chops, turkey jerky, beef jerky, like, and some have a little sugar added. Don't care. It's fine. Like it's good. Need a little bit of sugar in your life, and then it'll taste good. Or like there's salmon ones here too. So, but like I don't really like push snacks with people at all. Actually, I usually do like three kind of balanced meals or maybe three balanced meals in a smoothie. But if you are going to do snacks or you are traveling and you can't, you know, make yourself a chicken chef salad, you could easily put together a chunk of these things and get a nice snacky protein meal. I'd say these things that I just went through, maybe even one of those grab and go yogurts, unless you have to be non-perishable or you don't have refrigeration. But even those are fine for a couple hours. Um, yeah, those are all good. Not really a fan of bars in general, but the Aloha bars here, that would be my other. Those rate really well, like on the Yuka app. They're real clean. They're going to be a little bit higher carb, but if that's kind of your carbohydrate and then you grab some of this other stuff, you'd be good. You're like 20, 25 carbs, but they're like a seed-based bar and they're good. I think I have one of those in there too. So, usually I tell people 1 gram of protein per day per ideal body weight. I won't get into the details of that because that's a lot, but for women that, you know, I'd like to have women at least at 100 grams of protein a day. People are like, I can never do that. But you can. It really is just changing some of your choices. But a lot of the women I work with, I'd say I have most women between 140 and 150 a day, depending on what they're coming with me. Maybe you don't hit that every day, and maybe that seems like a lot. So, um, But it means you're not having a bagel and cream cheese or a waffle for breakfast, though. Like it's something different. It's maybe a sweet potato and turkey skillet with a couple eggs and fruit, you know. Um, and so there's ways to kind of work with that. If you don't even want to look at that number and you're having like steak or chicken or whatever, I like to see at least 5, 6 ounces of one of those like lean animal proteins for women, like per meal, like a serving size. Men, I like more like 6 to 8 probably, because it depends on your body weight a little bit. And if you're not sure what that is, just get a little gram scale, which most of you maybe have anyways, or $20. Um, when I started kind of weighing, measuring protein to make sure I was getting enough, I was under consuming because I was like, oh yeah, that's 5 ounces, but it wasn't. It was like 3.5. Like I wasn't eyeing it up. Well, now I can, but also remember if you have a pork chop, the bone is like a chunk of that there, like in the weight of that, and you're cutting some fat off or whatever. That's why I love things like pork tenderloin, flank steak, some of those that have no waste, and you're just kind of like slicing off a chunk and throwing it in a fry pan. That's what I ate last night. So, for chicken ready to go. All right, so number one, eat whole foods mostly and just don't eat too much food. But if you are eating mostly whole foods 90% of the time, it is almost impossible to eat 20 calories. It really is. It's really rare. Oops, I ate 2 bags of carrots. No one does that. Fried chicken, right? Yeah. Chicken breast, probably not. You're not like I accidentally had all this. Like, I don't know what happened. I was watching a movie, like a bag of chips. You're not going to do that with. Even like fruit is maybe the only one, like, you could eat like a lot of fruit. But are you really going to eat like 3 apples like in one sitting? Like most people don't do that. Plus, that might be a lot to digest. So.
They have pomelos at one time.
Ooh, pomelos, yeah, those are good too. Yeah, I remember those are your favorite. They're pretty too.
Is rotisserie chicken bad?
Um, I'd rather that than maybe like a hot dog for sure. Like, yeah. And I know it's easy to buy. Um, I probably would pull the skin off and then they're injected with a lot of stuff. So that's a part I don't like. So it depends on like your health conditions. If you're pretty healthy and and it's either that or you're not going to do anything else, then I would say grab it, but like pull the like skin off and something. Yeah. It'd be like low on my list of like concerns. If you have if you are sensitive to fermentable ingredients like garlic and onion, that's not what you want. Like if you have GI issues and IBS issues, garlic and onion, I pull from people just initially. So some of those things you just don't know what's in there. And sometimes you're not, they'll be like, oh, every time I eat this chicken, I have problems with chicken. And I was like, I'm getting a rotisserie chicken. I'm like, and it's very unlikely it's actually the chicken, but it might be the garlic or the onion, or they inject a lot of those for flavor with like with sodium nitrate or like stuff like that to make them all plump and cute. That's what's in lunch meat and stuff like that too. So like lunch meat is not my favorite protein source, but in a pinch, again, you're flying somewhere, you're traveling, yeah, make a wrap or you don't have to be like never have it, but I wouldn't have it like your everyday. It also has a lot, probably half the protein of like the actual pure form of like the chicken or the turkey or whatever. It's easier though, so I know that's why people grab it. So number one, eat real food. Number two is super simple. We don't even have to talk about it. Don't smoke, period. Don't. So that's huge for metabolic health too. Number three, this one's a hard one. Sleep well and sleep long enough. How many people sleep well and long enough? Most of you in here are not 25, so none of you? I didn't last night either. Yep, you didn't either.
No.
Keep staying up too late. What? Just need a massage every day, you'd be fine. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
If you go on my website and look back, and in fact, wait, this year I am doing a month on sleep. So watch for that. I don't remember what month it is. I might have it in my notebook. But I've done a lot on like why am I so tired or things like that, and there's sleep pieces in there. I'm not a fan of just taking a whole bunch of stuff to sleep. You can, but I like to find out why you're not sleeping first and see if there's anything we can do about that. Is it high cortisol levels? Is it high anxiety? Is it your cat underneath your bed? That's mine. and you won't come out or on your face like pets, babies, kids waking you up. So that's stuff too that I'm like, well, we can work through some stuff that's just like the stage of life that you're in. But if you don't have those, or you're like, oh, I sleep good, but there was a thunderstorm last night. Okay, well, I can't. I don't do weather. So, but if consistently, or what I a lot of times hear is people fall asleep okay, and then they wake up between 1 and 3 in the morning and they can't get back to sleep. Do you know what that is? Most often, besides potential hot flashes and low estrogen, cortisol. Yeah, cortisol, which is connected with liver too, but that's almost always like a cortisol thing where you can sleep, you fall asleep for a couple hours and then you're up. And then you get mad that you're up. So then you're like, well, I just lay here. Do I read a book? Do I do something? Whatever. And then fall back asleep. But we really want like 7 or 8 hours of like straight sleep. Now, I do like a sleep intake with people and go through stuff, but it's not uncommon or abnormal to wake up in the middle of the night because your bladder's full and you go to the bathroom. That's fine. But can you get back to bed within like 10 or 15 minutes? If you can, that's fine. But most of us don't have 100% uninterrupted REM sleep for 8 hours. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're like, I was in bed for 9 hours and I woke up and I'm exhausted, I'm like, ugh. Now I don't have an Apple Watch or any, I'm not into all the tech stuff, but like, if you have an Apple Watch, obviously it'll give you your sleep data. But don't let that drive you crazy either. There are people coming in with charts and graphs of all their sleep, and I'm like, this is why you're stressed out. You're spending all this time tracking your sleep, because then you get mad about it, or you check your uh, phone in the middle of the night and see, what time it is, and then you're like, dang it. So you can get up, go to the bathroom, reset, whatever. A lot of times for a while, I was too hot, and that was like, I could tell that's when my hormones were changing because I'd fall asleep. In fact, I was cold when I'd fall asleep, and then 2 in the morning, I was like, but that's like the low estrogen thing too. So like that's where the hormone replacement can be really helpful for sleep for both men and women. If your hormones are imbalanced, and you don't have to be in perimenopause or menopause. If you're younger, something could be off too. So, but yeah, that could be cortisol. That absolutely can be metabolism, sleep issues. Because if your blood pressure is too high, just think about it. If your blood pressure is too high, your body can't relax and fall asleep. But then there's other like logistics things. Is your room between 62 and 68? If it's warmer than 68, you might have sleep issues. You don't want it too, warm. Do you have a spouse that snores? That's a big one. Kick them out. Yes. Yeah. Right. Or you're sleeping with somebody that's really hot. Yeah. You're like, don't get off me. Don't touch me. You want to like separate. Got to get cooling sheets. And so there's lots of logistics reasons. But if all of that is decent and it's not your cat, your kid, your spouse, and you just don't know why you're waking up and it's irritating, or you go to bed at 10 or 11, but you're up at 3:30 or 4, like for the day, like that's not great either. Now you can take a nap, but we could go back and forth on that too. Like if you take a nap, but it's 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day, well, then that's why you're probably going to wake up again. So then you can see how it's like an endless cycle. Or do you have a glass of wine or a shot of bourbon before you go to bed? Alcohol will impact your sleep, absolutely, especially within 6 hours of having it. But even just having it at all, alcohol will mess with your sleep for sure. I have all good news today. Don't drink, don't just eat purse tuna and but yeah, metabolically, yeah, alcohol was the other thing I was gonna say, I don't remember. Caffeine will mess with it too. Yep. And it can be early in the day. We all process caffeine differently. Like I usually do pretty well with it, but everybody's a little bit different. So what's your coffee cutoff? Okay, so 3 is sleep. If your insulin is on the higher end, that will definitely impact your sleep. So that's one of the metabolic things. So that's why I say get a fasting insulin. Okay, so far, how many people eat mostly whole foods, don't smoke, and well, I guess none of you because nobody sleeps well. Let's take the sleep thing out of it. How many people are eating mostly whole foods and don't smoke? Not right now, somebody. Yeah. Okay, so like a third of you. Good. Number 4, move. Move your body. Don't need a gym membership. If you want, talk to Nicole though. Works at the athletic club. That could be yoga studio, that could be Pilates, that could be something you do in your house. I have a nice little cute gym in the basement of my house. It's very basic and small. I don't use it. I have to go to the athletic club. I won't do it. It sounds like a great idea, but I don't because I have laundry and then my cats follow me down there too. And it's a basement and it's cold and like I don't want to. Like,
Right.
and I'm by myself.
Sorry.
When I go to the athletic club, hardly ever, maybe twice in the history of the world, have I walked in there and sat down and did nothing because people are there to move and then we're a little bit more self-conscious and accountable, which is kind of a good, it's kind of a good thing. So, I say like 30 minutes a day. I wrote down here, no vacuuming, no gardening. I'm not saying that you should vacuum and garden. Um, we're just going to count that as non-exercise movement though, because people are like, oh yeah, I exercise every day, whatever. All those things are good because I don't want you sitting on the couch all day. But you should have some formal exercise 30 minutes a day. So maybe that's light weightlifting stuff at home, somewhere else. At least walking is a great place to start. But if you're walking, you should be walking fast enough that you have a hard time carrying on a conversation with somebody. Not like, but just that it's some effort to talk. A 15-minute mile is that's good goal. That's like a brisk walk. So sometimes when I work with people and they'll say, oh, I say, let's just try walking like a mile a day. And then I'll say, can you time yourself? It's not a race, but can you time yourself? Let's work on increasing the number of miles you walk per day, but let's work on your intensity then too. And they'll say, 1 mile took me 21 minutes. And I'll say, all right, well then every, every month, let's try to shave a minute or something like that. Or let's try 2 miles. Because if 1 mile takes you 21 minutes and you walk 2 miles in 42, that's better than 1 mile at 21. So we can go intensity or you can do length. I like to do both. But so, for example, if you could walk 2 miles in 30 minutes, that's a good moderate goal for most people to get to. Oh, yeah, that's like power walking. That's like I would probably have to jog for that. So, like, yeah. Yeah, my like jogging mile is like a 9 or 10 minute mile, I would say. But like my walking mile is maybe around, if it's brisk, about 12. But under 12 minutes, and then my shins start to hurt because I think I'm like putting too much pressure, and depending on what your shoes are. So that's number 4. Number 5, stress. We all have it. Different times in your life when you have a ton. So I'm not going to stand up here and say get rid of it because I know you can't. But um, doing things that can mitigate it, having good relationships, good friends, the sleep thing, if you can, seriously, the food thing too. I mean, all those things will help. Meditation, eating well, hydrating, um, ounces per water, half your body weight, much more than most of us are doing. Probably more than I'm doing right now too. Mindfulness apps, purging things that you don't need, purging people that you don't need. People drain your energy and you can spend less time with them. What'd you say?
Would meditate last night?
Yeah, you are meditate about that. Yeah. So those are the 5 things. So think of what's one thing that out of those 5 things that you could start doing today that you're not already. If you don't smoke, you can't use that one.
Yeah.